Poison has always had a special place in human fear, because unlike weapons you can see, poison hides. It can be mixed into food, dissolved into a drink, or taken without anyone realizing what's happening. And that's why poison shows up everywhere in stories. In fiction, it's often used as a shortcut, something fast, silent, and untraceable. Detectives like Sherlock Holmes or Hercule Poirot made audiences obsessed with the idea of a perfect poison. But in real life, poison isn't glamorous. It's slow, frightening, and brutal. For the victim, and for the people who witness it. Throughout history, poisons have appeared in courtrooms, battlefields, royal families, and even ordinary homes. Sometimes they were used deliberately. Sometimes they were accidents. And sometimes it's impossible to know the truth, because history doesn't leave behind a clean explanation. So today, we're going on an educational journey. Not a guide, not instructions, just a look at 10 infamous poisons from history, what made them feared, and the stories connected to them. And as we go, keep this in mind. The scariest part of poison isn't the substance itself. It's the uncertainty. Because in many cases, people didn't even know what was happening until it was too late. All right. Let's begin. Number 10. Hemlock. The poison that silenced a philosopher, our first entry, is one of the oldest and most famous poisons in recorded history. Hemlock isn't some mythical potion from a fantasy novel. It's a real plant, and it was known even in ancient civilizations for its dangerous effects. In the ancient Greek world, hemlock became linked to instead of bloodshed or physical violence, hemlock offered something different. A death that looked controlled, almost ceremonial. But controlled doesn't mean peaceful. What makes hemlock horrifying is the way it affects the body. Accounts describe a slow shutdown, where the victim remains aware while movement becomes impossible. And the most famous hemlock death in history is Socrates. Socrates wasn't just any man. He was a philosopher whose teachings shaped the way people think even today. But in 399 BC, he was condemned to death after being accused of impiety and corrupting the youth. Instead of begging for mercy, Socrates accepted his fate. And that's what made his death so haunting. A man famous for his mind, forced into a death that trapped the mind in a body that could no longer respond. Hemlock wasn't just a poison. It became a symbol of how power silences truth. Number 9. Aconite. The Wolfsbane of legend, next, is a poison with a reputation almost as dramatic as its name. Aconite comes from a plant often called monkshood because its flowers resemble a hood or helmet, but it's also known by another name, wolfsbane. And when something is called wolfsbane, you already know history did not trust it. Across legends and folklore, aconite was associated with danger, curse, and death. But the truth is, its reputation wasn't only superstition. Aconite is infamous because of how powerfully it can affect the body, especially the heart. And historically, it gained attention because it was often considered difficult to confirm after death compared to other poisons of its era, especially in times when medicine was primitive. That made aconite the perfect ingredient for paranoia. If someone important died suddenly, people didn't just ask what happened. They asked, was it aconite? One story often repeated in history involves Roman Emperor Claudius. Claudius was a powerful ruler. But like many emperors, he lived in a world filled with political enemies and betrayal inside the palace. Rumors suggest he may have been poisoned during a meal possibly connected to his wife. Whether the story is fact or legend, the reason it survived is simple. Because it perfectly fits the pattern of history's most dangerous game: power, ambition, and silent murder behind closed doors. Aconite became feared not only for what it did, but for what it represented. A reminder that sometimes the greatest threats aren't armies. They're the people sitting beside you at dinner. Number 8. Belladonna. Beauty on the outside, danger on the inside. Now we move to one of the strangest poisons on this list, because it was connected to both beauty and death. This is Belladonna. The name Belladonna comes from Italian and translates to beautiful woman. And that name exists for a reason. In parts of Europe, belladonna was once used in cosmetic practices. People believed it made the pupils look larger and the eyes more attractive. Back then, beauty standards could be extreme, and many people didn't understand the full danger of what they were experimenting with. But belladonna has another name, one that tells you everything you need to know. Deadly nightshade earned that title honestly. It contains toxins that can cause severe reactions if ingested. The plant has berries that look deceptively attractive, almost like something harmless, even sweet. That's what makes it terrifying. In the wrong situation, deadly nightshade doesn't look like poison. It looks like nature offering you fruit. And throughout history, belladonna became associated with poison-tipped weapons and tragic accidents, especially involving people who didn't realize what they were touching. Belladonna is a reminder of how thin the line is between medicine and danger, between beauty and poison. Sometimes, the deadliest things aren't the ones that look threatening. Sometimes, the deadliest things look like they belong in a garden. Number 7. Deathcap mushroom. A deadly mistake. Now we enter the world of something that still takes lives today, not in palaces or ancient courts, but in forests. This is the deathcap mushroom, also known by its scientific name, Amanita pyoid. The deathcap mushroom is infamous because it has fooled people for centuries. It can resemble edible mushrooms, and that's where the danger begins, because the deadliest poison isn't always the one someone gives you. Sometimes, it's the one you pick up yourself. What makes the deathcap so frightening is how deceptive it can be. It doesn't taste like immediate doom. In fact, reports often say it can taste perfectly normal, and to make it worse, the most dangerous effects can take time to fully show up. That delay has caused countless tragedies, because people may believe they're safe, right before the real damage begins. Historically, there are rumors that major figures may have died due to mushroom poisoning, including Pope Clement VII, and even possibly Emperor Charles VI, though historians have debated details. But the bigger truth is this. The deathcap mushroom has earned its reputation through confirmed cases across the world. It's one of nature's most lethal mistakes. A single wrong choice in the wild, and the consequences can be irreversible. So if there's one lesson here, it's this. Some poisons don't come in bottles. They grow naturally, quietly, waiting for someone who doesn't know better. Number 6. Tetrodotoxin. The ocean's silent threat. Number 6 takes us away from plants and fungi and into the ocean. This is tetrodotoxin, a toxin famously linked to certain marine creatures. The two most well-known are the pufferfish and the blue-ringed octopus. And here's what makes tetrodotoxin terrifying. In many cases, victims may not realize what's happening right away. The blue-ringed octopus is small, almost beautiful, with glowing blue markings. It looks harmless, and that's exactly why it's so dangerous. Some encounters have been described as painless at first, followed by rapid worsening symptoms. The pufferfish, on the other hand, is famous for being eaten as a delicacy in some cultures, but only when prepared by trained professionals, because one mistake can turn a meal into tragedy. Tetrodotoxin has become famous, not just because of what it does, but because it proves something unsettling. Nature does not need human invention to create deadly weapons. The ocean is full of life, but it's also full of survival tools we were never meant to encounter, and tetrodotoxin is one of the most feared examples. Number 5. Polonium, the invisible radioactive killer. Now we shift from natural poisons into something modern and truly chilling. Polonium. This isn't a plant. It isn't an animal toxin. It's radioactive, and radioactive poisons operate in a completely different kind of horror, because in many cases, people don't recognize the danger until the damage has already begun. Polonium gained worldwide attention through one of the most shocking poisoning cases of the modern era, Alexander Litvinenko, a former Russian spy. In 2006, Litvinenko became suddenly and severely ill. The situation escalated quickly, and his death became international news. Later, investigators reported radioactive traces connected to his case, and polonium became the headline that stunned the world. That's why polonium is remembered so strongly. because it didn't feel like an accident. It didn't feel like an old legend. It felt like something out of a spy movie. Except it was real. Polonium represents a new era of fear. Not poison hidden in gardens, but poison tied to geopolitics, intelligence work, and modern conflict. A reminder that the methods change, but the darkness stays the same. Number 4. Mercury. A poison hidden in plain sight. Mercury is one of the most famous, toxic substances in human history. And what makes mercury so disturbing isn't just its danger. It's the fact that for a long time, people didn't realize it was dangerous at all. Mercury was used in medicine, scientific experiments, and even cosmetics. It appeared in treatments that people trusted. That's what makes its history tragic. Because mercury didn't always enter the body through crime. Sometimes it entered through help. Over time, the world learned the risks. But in earlier centuries, mercury exposure was a silent hazard. One famous historical connection is Mozart. His death has been debated for generations. And while no single explanation is confirmed, some theories suggest mercury-based treatments may have played a role because those treatments were common in that era. Mercury reminds us of something uncomfortable. The past is full of solutions that later turned into disasters. And sometimes the most dangerous poisons are the ones society accepts as normal. Until it's too late. Number 3. Cyanide. A poison linked to dark history. Now we reach one of the most notorious poisons of all time. Cyanide. Cyanide has been cemented into public imagination through crime stories, spy films, and dark history. What made cyanide infamous is that it became linked to multiple realities. Accidents, murders, warfare, and even genocide. And this part matters. Cyanide-based compounds were used by Nazi Germany as part of mass murder in the Holocaust. This is not a detail shared for shock, it's shared because history demands honesty. Some poisons are remembered because of mystery. Cyanide is remembered because of horror. It represents one of the darkest examples of humans using chemistry to destroy human lives on a massive scale. And that's why cyanide remains one of the most feared names in history. Not just because it is toxic, but because of what it has been used for. Number 2. Botulinum toxin. Small exposure, big consequences. Number 2 is botulinum toxin, a substance connected to the condition known as botulism. Botulism is serious because it affects the muscles and can become life-threatening if untreated. What's strange about botulinum toxin is how it exists in two worlds at once. On one side, it's connected to dangerous medical emergencies. On the other side, the public also recognizes it because controlled forms of it are used in modern cosmetic treatments. It's one of the most bizarre contradictions in modern life. A substance feared for its potential harm, also known for being used in beauty and appearance culture. Historically, botulism became a public concern because of its link to contaminated food and unsafe preservation practices. But the bigger point is this. Botulinum toxin proves that danger isn't always about size. Sometimes the smallest exposure can lead to the biggest consequences. And it reminds us why food safety, medicine, and public health systems matter so much. Number 1. Arsenic, the king of poisons. And finally, arsenic. Arsenic has been called the king of poisons, and it earned that nickname for one main reason. For a long time, it was extremely difficult to detect. That made arsenic a terrifying tool in a world without modern forensic science. If someone fell ill, and the symptoms looked like common disease, people could die without anyone ever knowing the truth. Arsenic became associated with court scandals, suspicious deaths, and whispered accusations. It was the poison of secrets, and because arsenic was so difficult to prove, it became a favorite element in mystery stories, legends, and historical debates. Some theories have even suggested arsenic could have contributed to the death of Napoleon Bonaparte, though historians continue to argue about the evidence and circumstances. But regardless of which theories are true, arsenic represents something larger. An era when death could be caused quietly, and no one could prove it. Arsenic is the reason modern forensic science became so important. Because without detection, the truth doesn't exist in court, only rumors do. And arsenic is the poison that turned rumor into terror. So, those were 10 famous poisons from history and the stories that made them legendary. Some were used intentionally. Some were tragic accidents. And some are still surrounded by unanswered questions, because history doesn't always leave behind clear evidence. But every one of them teaches the same lesson. The most frightening threats aren't always loud. They don't always announce themselves. Sometimes, the most dangerous things are the ones you never see coming. If you enjoyed this educational countdown, hit the like button. And if you want more historical mysteries, strange deaths, and true stories that sound fictional, subscribe for the next one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.